Most men spend years trying to figure women out and still end up even more confused than when they began because they assume the female mind works primarily through logic, when in reality it is influenced much more by emotions, perceptions, and personal experiences. And here's the uncomfortable truth. What attracts a woman doesn't always correspond with what she says attracts her. What turns her off isn't necessarily what you imagine turns her off either. And what is actually happening inside her mind is often understood only by men who have made enough mistakes to learn from them, because experience teaches lessons that no book can fully explain. Today, you're going to discover 3 truths about the female mind that most men understand far too late. And the final one may be the most important of all, because it completely changes the way a woman sees you. Think about it for a moment. How many times have you met a woman where everything seemed to be going perfectly? The conversation flowed naturally. There was interest, there was chemistry, and then, all of a sudden, something changed. She began acting more distant, colder, and more difficult to understand. And you were left wondering what had happened. Most men search for the answer in her words, but experienced men pay attention to her emotions because they understand one fundamental truth. Emotions often make decisions long before logic comes up with an explanation, and this is exactly where it begins. The first truth that experienced men understand about the female mind is that a woman wants to feel understood much more than she wants to be impressed. Yes, that's right. Many men believe they constantly need to impress her, show their money, display their status, talk about their achievements, and prove their value again and again. And while those things may capture her attention, they don't necessarily create a genuine connection because emotional connection comes from a completely different place. It develops when a woman feels that you genuinely understand her. Now think about this. How many people actually know how to listen? Very few. Most people are simply waiting for their opportunity to speak. Most are trying to prove something. Most are focused on convincing the other person. But experienced men eventually discover something different. When a woman talks about something that matters to her, she isn't always asking you for a solution. She wants to feel heard. She wants to feel noticed. She wants to feel understood. And this is exactly where many men get it wrong. She says, "I'm exhausted." And he responds, "Well, you need to become more organized." She shares something that worries her, and he immediately tries to fix the problem. She expresses an emotion, and he answers with logic. But emotions don't always require logic. They require understanding. That's why one simple sentence can sometimes have a much greater impact than an entire speech. Instead of saying, "It's not that serious," an experienced man might say, "I understand why that made you feel that way." And suddenly the entire conversation changes because now she feels understood, and that feeling creates emotional closeness. But wait, because the next truth explains why some women begin pulling away at exactly the moment when they appear to be most interested. And this is where many men allow incredible opportunities to disappear. The second truth is that women often protect their emotions much more than they reveal. On the outside, they might seem confident, self-assured, and completely independent. But internally, they experience fear of rejection too. They have insecurities too. They can also be afraid of getting hurt. And pay close attention, because this second truth can completely change the way a woman perceives you. Many men assume that they are the only ones who feel pressure, the only ones afraid of making the wrong move, and the only ones who worry about rejection. But women experience this internal struggle as well. The difference is that they may express it in a different way. That's why a woman can sometimes be interested in you while still appearing distant. She can feel attraction and yet behave cautiously. She can want to become closer while still holding back because she is watching, evaluating, and trying to determine whether you are emotionally secure. And this is where one of the most common mistakes happens. When she takes a step backward, many men immediately panic. They start chasing her. They become more persistent. They search for explanations. They demand reassurance and validation, and without even realizing it, they end up proving exactly what she was afraid of: emotional insecurity. Experienced men understand something completely different. They know that patience communicates far more confidence than desperation. They understand that calmness is more attractive than neediness, and that changes everything. Now, the THR